Hello, my name is Kuba Kucharski and this is the Dev Team Project, a podcast exploring methods, approaches and skills needed to build great engineering teams. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Dev Team Project. And today our guest is Matias di Tada.
Hello, how are you?
VP of Product Engineer at Avature. I was looking for a leader like that for a long time, like gentle, humble, and I'm so happy I found Matias. He's also like a rescue diver and a father. And because you're a rescue diver and it kind of gives some background about you, I would like to start with this. Like, what does it mean to be like a rescue diver?
Okay, so rescue diver is like the third step of the PADI course on recreational diving course. So you start with small things like the first step is open water, then advanced open water, where you learn advanced skills like going to depth, and then you go to the rescue diver. That is basically to be more in control of what's going on in the water. So you gain skills about rescuing yourself, like what to do if you're run out of water or whatever, and then to be aware of what is going on with the other person, to rescue them if they're out of oxygen, or if they are, I don't know, having some kind of trouble with their equipment, or if the worst case is they are unconscious and you have to go up and remove their equipment and start doing breath to them. But yeah, it's basically to be more in control of the situation and to be able to help the other, as they said, like the body divers.
That must be so hard, and it like requires like a lot of peace of mind to be able to.
Well, yeah, and diving also. It's not only rescue diver. It's like whole thing of going into water. Like the first step is to test if you're comfortable under the water. Like the first thing that you realize that you have to be calm because of two things. First, to reduce the amount of air that you're spending, because if you're stressed and you're trying to breathe like real quick, you run out of air like really quick.
I wonder if this kind of experience like translates about like into being like an engineering leader. But let's talk about this later. I would like to rewind a bit and start with your background. So could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. So right now in Avature, I'm like 13 years onto my trip here in Avature. And I started as a software developer doing Java on the first piece of product that we started here in Avature. And afterwards, I started as a tech lead, then manager of small teams, several teams. I started the teams myself. I think like 3-4 teams. Then I moved to a more architectural role in the architecture team, and afterwards here as VP of Product Engineer. So it was like the whole career in Avature, which was great because I used to read about how you need to change jobs in order to gain experience in different kind of companies and stuff. But as Avature started 13 years ago, and we were like, I don't know, 5 or 10 people, and we are now 600. So in that period, I was in every different type of company already. So that's pretty cool. So
it is incredible. Like you climbed all the ladder of engineering, and at the same time, like you've went all this, way with Avature from being like a very small startup to now being like a big company. Yeah. So what is the size of the engineering team, product engineering team right now?
We're about 120, 130 in the whole engineering team, and growing every week, I would say.
Yeah. Could you tell me more about the structure of the team, how it works, how the product works with engineering, how it's all like interlinked together, like what's generally the structure?
So right now we split the whole product into small modules based on the functionality that the module provides. And we create on those small modules a team that is in charge of it. And the team is made of the whole branch of roles. So we have a function analyst, a manager, a tech lead, the devs, a QA analyst, So everything is in that small team.
How many people are in this team, like on average?
It varies, but we have small teams of 3 until to the point of 12, 13. But that's the tops. When we reach that number, we try seeing if we need to make another split of the team, of the module itself. And we're like 24 teams on the product.
24 teams?
Yes, so 24.
120 people, 24 teams?
24 teams. And then we have other branches that are kind of horizontal roles where we deal with the UX. We have the IT department that is also engineering. But yeah, in product, we divide the teams that way.
And who is leading the team, like of those 3 or 12 people? And what's the difference?
The team is led by the manager and the tech lead as a group. There's no one on the top of the hierarchy, and both roles have different responsibilities. One is more in charge of the day-to-day, the assignments, the tasks, and the other is leading the technical knowledge of the team, trying to improve the team and the people inside the team, and towards the goals of the whole product engineering team.
And who is working with managers and tech leaders, like?
So I'm VP of product engineering, but we also have a VP of engineering management, and we replicate the same structure inside the teams, where 2 leaders guide the whole team towards the goals. We replicate that on this on the VP level. So we have a VP of product management, a VP of product engineering, and the managers are with the VP of product manager, and the tech leads of the teams are with me.
Tech leads of the team are with you, and so you're managing 24 tech leads right now?
Well, right now, yeah, but we're introducing a whole new level. We are trying to develop the skills of the people, so we are introducing a director level. So we will, again, split the teams into smaller groups of 3 teams with a leader, both as a director of management and director of the tech leads, in order to replicate again in a smaller scale what we find out that is working.
Yeah, this is what I really wanted to talk with you, as those, breaking moments, because you observe the team growing, like from probably 3 engineers or 5 engineers to 120. So what are those, breaking points? At what point, like our audience should look into, solving problems in the near future? Because you don't want to, solve the problems for the distant future. When you're a company of, 10 or 20 people, you don't want to create a structure for 120. So how to spot those, symptoms of the organization falling apart?
So yes, obviously you don't need to split your like really small product into teams or whatever once when you have 10 people. And it's really easy at the start, right? Because we're all sitting next to each other. So it's all about like communicating, free communication, no management, no tech leads, where we're all devs into the same product. And that works very well until a certain point. Maybe when you reach 20 people, maybe when you reach enough functionality in the product that you start to see specialization on some of the people. So that's when you realize that something needs to be reorganized. And at around 20, 25 people, we started doing this to split into teams. And we introduced the role first of the manager and the tech lead. But back then it was not this group leading the group, but the manager had a bigger role in the group. It was not until further in the history of Avature that we realized that we wanted to have the tech lead and the manager equal responsibility on the team. So around 25 people, we started splitting the team, and right there we decided to go to functionality of the product to be the value that we wanted to make the split, and it worked because we started replicating the same thing that we were having when we were 10, like small groups, communicating, knowing the whole product, then the whole piece of the product, really controlling, having ownership of that piece of code. And the roles started to emerge, right? The tech lead, like the dev the lead dev of the team started to showing skills as leadership and the management. And then we started with a function analyst role inside the team. And
did you have to like bring external people to kind of get this fresh blood of people knowing how to manage and this kind of situation, or did you just start promoting people within the team? And
we usually do internal mobility and promotion, and that worked like really well. We have a better internal mobility and tenure on the company that you can see outside on different companies.
Yep.
And I think that's because we're looking for the talent inside. Of course, we grew from 10 to 120, so we brought a lot of people. But whenever we needed to change the structure and try to introduce the new leadership, we try to find it internally.
So how those people learn when they are promoted internally and then they get a challenge, they're actually moving to being like a manager, and they've never for example, observed a great manager in work. So how do they
That's a great
step
question.
up?
I think that you need to find out before that they had the skills necessary to move to that position. When we were really small in number, we didn't have training procedures or written guides on how to be a great leader or management. We're really small, so you just said, okay, yeah, I think she can do it, so let's promote her as the manager of the team.
Yeah.
But you need to try to find out the skills because not everyone has the skills, and not everyone, I think, can learn the skills to become a leader. But if you have certain skills, you certainly can recognize those skills and can start to be better at those kind of things.
And how you look for those skills? Is this something that you kind of intuitively try to see in people, or are you looking for specific personality traits, things in them to know that they can be promoted to a managerial responsibility?
Well, we have both roles, the manager and the tech lead, and I think both roles have different skill sets that are required. Of course, if we are talking about the tech lead position, leading a team onto the technical role of the team, you of course want to search for technical knowledge, of course. And of management, it's not that inside our company, it's not a requirement to have a lot of technical knowledge of your product module. But both roles shares the same responsibility in terms of leading the team and these people skills. And I think those are the easiest thing that you can really sense if you're looking for certain skills to become a leader. You're trying to find someone that is really aware of the team needs, attentive to their needs, and of course trying to make the whole team be better. You don't recognize a leader trying to by looking at the person trying to accomplish something extra and going to trying to be better himself. You're trying to find a leader that is working with a team, doing random trainings that nobody asks to be made. So hey, why are you giving this talk? No, I thought it was really fun and really interesting for the team itself. And so you need to pay attention to those kind of things.
Yeah, so you're looking for people with initiatives,
of course,
and
yes.
initiatives that are out of their scope. Here's a software engineer, and he decided to do something for the team.
Yeah, I think there's the when you start, you're trying to be better yourself. So you're paying attention of your mistakes. So what are you doing, trying to learn new skills, and then you start to increase the scope of reach that you're trying to get. So then you move to the team, pay attention to their needs, and then you try to increase the scope of to get to other teams. So we always try to find out. Right now with the new level, the director level, we're trying to find those skills also. It's not just about your team, but you will be looking for a bigger point, a higher point of view. You're now in charge of 3 teams, so you not only try to pay attention to your team, but the big picture, how the 3 teams work together, how they align to the product. So you try to find those skills of increase of scope, of awareness of more people.
So are you looking to promote only people within the organization to the director level right now? Just not looking for external directors?
It's the same as before. We're always trying to find the internal people.
Okay.
But as always, you always find great people outside.
Yeah.
But we don't introduce them directly to one of those positions.
So what do you do?
We always start like, okay, I know you're maybe at director level, but we want you to start as a senior developer inside the team. Try to know the product itself, the module itself, work from there. And then we can start talking, if you show the skills that we're looking for, then we can start talking about leadership positions as a tech lead or maybe directly as the director. But we want first to be a senior developer that is really into the model itself, starts knowing, like, get your hands dirty before trying to lead the team, right?
And this way also people like within your team can, be convinced that this person is the right person for them to be a leader. The question is whether they see a leader in them, right?
Yeah, not only convinced, right, but to trust that he or she has the knowledge and was right next to them working in the module itself. I think that's better than started right on trying to lead the team that you just met.
Yeah, and I remember when we met, you mentioned that you really have to get to know yourself to be a great leader. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, sure. I think that you cannot you cannot lead people, you cannot try to guide them or find their skills or work with them unless you really know what's going on with yourself. Like the mind is the mind, right? It's like you and me are both trying to accomplish goals, have fears or objectives or everything. And first, if you look in yourself and identify those kind of things, why you react the way you react to external factors, why you're paying attention, why are you getting distracted, I think you realize how your mind is working, right? And then you can understand why other people is doing what they're doing, reacting the way they do, and like why they have fears for this or why they're great on other topics. And I think that's the self-realization that we're the same. And so knowing is, I think that's a cliche on the phrase, but knowing yourself is then knowing others. I think it's really useful before trying to engage with the other person to first really know yourself.
So it's a lot about, being able to distance yourself from situations a bit, like to actually understand that, behavior of someone is, it's not about you, it's about them and seeing them and not yourself and your ego.
That's right. It's certainly not about you when you're leading people. I don't know if it's like to distance yourself, but once you realize how you're working, then you can really pay attention. And there's the whole mindfulness thing right now, the awareness to be in the present. So I think once you are capable of really paying attention to the other person and being there and like being aware of what's going on, and that is only possible if you're calm inside and if you know what is going on. So I think that's why you become a great leader, because you're paying attention to the other person, being there for them.
Yeah, so I wonder, and it's also like a tip for our audience, like how to get there, like how to better know yourself. And okay, there's like 1,000 ways to do it. Probably one of them is like diving underwater, and there are like, again, thousands. But like, what is your way? Like, how you achieve this? Like, is mindfulness your thing?
Mindfulness is great, and I think I found it later in my trip of management. But I think it's a journey, right? It's not something that you can do it like go to a one-day course and that's it. I think it's a journey of like self-discovery first, and I think I've learned a lot of being a parent.
All right.
Because once you have your kid, you start to realize that you want the best for your kid. So you start with patience. You start trying to find out what is going on, why he's doing the things that he does or she does, and try to guide them, not to force them to do anything. So you start to accomplish this and learn these skills. You really have to be patient, right, with a kid, but also with people. And so I think patience is a great skill to.
But what was first for you, like being a manager or being a parent?
It was all in the same, like in parallel, because I have a 7-year-old kid, and I started in the management position maybe a few years before that, but not that long ago. So it was all in parallel, so that was helpful, because the skills that I was learning with my kid, I'm not saying that people are kids, but but it really helped trying to develop those skills with my kid, and then try to make the relationship with grown-ups and learn that. But really, as you said, like mindfulness is a great skill, so I really recommend starting there to be in control of your emotions, of your thoughts. That really helps when talking to other person, because you don't want your own, like, I don't know, anger or fear of or lack of attention to be a problem when talking to the other person.
It's a great perspective. Those two things like are so similar. So like you've been learning, the same thing at home and in work. So that's super effective.
It was great. It was a 24-hour learning process, right?
24-hour learning process. That's great. And it's a lot about, learning how to like not actually tell people what to do, right? It's a lot about, finding out a way for them to realize themselves.
Yeah, yes, of course. And that also it's been learned with the kid, right?
Yeah.
It's not always easy to tell them what to do, and of course kids want to do like learn, not being told what to do. They want to discover. So they're in the journey of discovering what it works for them, what they want to do, how they want to do it. So I think it's the same with people. They don't want to be told how to do things. And so I think nowadays there's the whole thing of telling your team what to do and let them figure out how to do it. So you have to really trust them, give them tools. I think parenting is the same. I think becoming a parent is providing tools, experience for them, and really trusting that they will figure out the best way to do what they want to do and how.
Yeah, but then there's the part when it's different, right? Like you don't need your kid to like be effective. You don't need your kid to like really achieve goals. Like I don't, but I guess that's pretty different. Like imagine say you've like promoted someone to a tech lead. You don't promote your kid to a tech lead yet,
No,
right?
Not yet.
And you see them struggling. What do you do?
Yeah, so mistakes happen. So maybe you thought that someone was ready for the position, and she's not, he's not. But that's okay. I think you have to give the possibility of trying if you really thought that they had the skills. But again, if you're there for them and you really listen and you have your conversations and you find what's going on, if they're having struggles with something, they're not comfortable in the position, or it was not the right moment for them, that's okay. We don't put that into a failure mode of you're not failing, you were just not ready, and that's okay. We had situations when we did that, and that was okay, and you go back to the role that you were comfortable with, and you start developing the skills. And we're finding out that there are also other career paths that you can take, right? It's not just about becoming junior dev and all the way up to the CEO, right?
Yeah.
So we are developing also a career path of individual contributors, where you don't really want to lead a team. You don't want to have that kind of responsibilities, or and that's okay.
So you mean like principal software engineer?
That's right. We're finding places where you can develop your skills that you want and be a great contributor to a specific team, or maybe going through different projects. But
so is this something you're like doing already?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. That's right. That's right. And I think it's working. It's working. Not everyone wants to lead a team. So you really have to give everyone the possibilities of keep growing in the direction that they want.
And how you talk to like engineers to know like what is the path for them, like how you know that? Is it something that's clear for them?
You
or?
ask, yes.
You just ask and they know.
I think, or you ask questions in order to them to find out if they want a certain path or not. I always have these conversations with my team, trying to find out what they want for their career. And so you start first talking about the skills that you want to learn, right? So maybe she's a junior dev, so she's trying to aim to gain knowledge, be interested in harder topics or things like that. And then we start asking more questions about, okay, what do you want next? Do you want to start leading a small project, or do you see yourself in a tech lead position? Do you see yourself in a management position? Do you like that? What skills do you want to test you on? Like, do you want to try to give a talk to people? Why don't you read a book, try to have a few takeaway, make a presentation for your team, for a small 2-3 people, realize if you're comfortable with that. So we are always trying to do those little things in order to them to realize if the path is the right for them.
Okay, let's jump a bit. I remember that you mentioned this thing. What was that? It was called like coordination versus rules, right? So what was that about?
I think it's really related to what we are talking about.
Okay.
It's not about telling what to do, how to do it, and make this command and rule, and it's not the kind of leading skills that I try to accomplish. So it's more about coordination, and I think that this word about consent. So it's not about making a command and rule the team, but trying to work the best for the team. So we try to make those behaviors in each of the teams. So each team is has ownership of the module that they work on, so they can make decisions on what to do and how to do it, and we try to replicate that again in the bigger splits of the engineering team that we are making. And I think consent is a really great word about this, because you're trying to find the best possible solution that fits for everyone. So it's not about ruling, it's not about majority, it's not about trying to have consensus on everyone. So it's trying to find the best and the quickest also, because you're trying to find what it works for everyone right now. And if something doesn't work for someone, again, you pay attention. It's not the minority, so you don't ignore it. You pay attention. You try to bring him or her to the position of the consent of the team. So you listen of the problem that they're talking about, and you try to work on a solution that works for them.
So I made a mistake. It's like actually ruling versus coordination. That was like the proper name, because I said coordination versus rules.
Okay, so yes,
ruling versus coordination.
It's not ruling. It's coordinating the teams and really making this consent on how to do things, and not telling exactly by, hey, I'm the VP of product engineer, I command you to do this way. I said, so it's not that way at all.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. But at the same time, you know, my experience is that consensus, it doesn't always like work great. Sometimes you have like a bunch of people in the room and then trying to get consensus on something and like decision and kind of, you know, everyone tries to be nice, and, you know, so like a lot of ideas are voted on and kind of decided on, and it's not necessarily, you know, the best outcome for the company.
No, certainly. So the majority or consensus is when you try to get everyone to agree to something and everyone on board of something, and try to and ignoring the minority and say, okay, if everyone 90% is saying this, okay, this is it. But consent is more about working the best for everyone, and try to find out where they're comfortable with the solution. Like, I'm not going to die if we go there, so that's okay. So it's the okay solution for everyone. Because majority and consensus usually takes a long time to have everyone on board and to listen to everyone and every detail. But consent is really, okay, if you are not against this solution, then that's okay. Let's try this. Try to to make this decision really quick and have the willingness to change it if we find out that it's not okay.
And this, coordination system, like for your team, like, do you have like guidelines or like a set of OKRs for a team and for teams? How do you make sure that it's all aligned within like the Avature goals?
So we're trying to do these group meetings and replicate it in a small scale and a bigger scale, and that's why we're trying to make this new direct level to replicate the model on the small scale. And so in the big scale, myself with the VP of Program Management and the manager and tech leads teams, we'll have these group meetings where we're trying to align with the bigger objectives or goals of Avature. And as we said before, we try to align them to those goals. So we don't tell them how to do it, but we tell them what we need and try to let them figure out what it will work best for their part of the product. And they replicate the same inside the team. So the tech lead and the manager then have their own meetings where they replicate the same that happened before. They try to align the team to the bigger goals. So it's all about direction, right? We're all trying to make the best. And if we are real aligned, then the vectors are aligned and the force goes to the same direction. And that's right.
Okay, so let's jump again. This time to like hiring a bit. I know that you guys are really proud of hiring for culture. Like, can you tell me more a bit about this?
So I think when you start getting bigger, it's always this kind of feeling that we're going to be different. We're going to lose the way that we did things, and I think that's hard to fix if you already lose that culture that you have. So you really have to pay attention who gets on board on the team. And in that way, we always try to make the most of the interviews that we have.
So how you do interviews?
And so now we have like a 4 main step on the process. We first have a screening. We always talk to the person. We really want to learn their history. So we ask about education history and work history, but we don't try to find the skills that they gain in that path. But why he or she chooses to go here or there? What are their hobbies? What do they want to do in the future? So we're trying to get that kind of feeling. And then we use Codility to get a sense of technical skills. But we don't use it as a filter, a higher filter to finish the process. We always go to the solution that the candidate made, review how they do it. We always look for the history of the development and try to again make the most of that interview. And even though they got a 0, we read it. We try to find out what's going on.
So you're using it like an additional signal, right?
That's right. And then we go to the on-site interview. And again, we train our interviewers to make the most, and we really have a detailed form to fill afterwards with specific questions of how the interview went. And we ask questions about like how the candidate react to feedback, how they deal with their communication. Did they listen? Did they ask questions? Was she curious? Was she interested in the topic? Was she engaged? So there's the majority of questions is around that, and not so much about did he or she gets to the 100% of coverage in the solution. So we really focus on that interaction, because I think those skills can be learned. She didn't know about performance, so that's okay. We can teach that, but we cannot teach, or it's harder to teach to listen and to try to be engaged on the solution, to try to be curious and to really ask good questions. So I think that's a way you really onboard what you want. If this is what you want, right? You want people that is engaged with the solutions that they're trying to find, right?
So is this what defines the culture of Avature, this kind of attitude?
Yes, I think it does. I think it does. That like you always work with people that are really into what they're building. They will try to find that solution to be and to be fun, right? Because you're trying to have that kind of skills, that people who are happy doing what they're doing and having fun while doing it.
Okay, so like we're running out of time, but I want to like finish with the last question. So imagine there is someone there in the audience who is just starting as a software engineer, like in a small startup, and they want to like become a VP of product engineering one day. Like, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I think we cover a few, but
if you need to choose one, what would it be?
I think that the best one is what we put in the whole interview, like to have the skills of awareness of like they're saying right now, mindfulness, about being there, being present, and to gain that self-knowledge. I think that's a skill, right? It's not so much right now about technical knowledge. That can be like it's everything right now in the internet or everywhere to learn from. So that you can read, but the other skills, the people skills, to be there for your team and try to improve them while you improve yourself. I think that's
it's a long journey, right? It's not something you can learn in a week, right?
It's not something that you said, oh, that's what I needed to do. And okay, no, you have to work.
It's a process.
It's really hard, right? We always we're always trying to improve ourselves first, but now you have to pay attention to that.
I think it's a wonderful note to end on. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Dev Team Project. And see you next time.